Thank you, Rita, very much. It was beautiful. Where are we now? Oh, yes. I am introducing Reverend Lesley Miller. Or are you introducing the Reverend Lesley Miller, Sean? Reverend Sean?
I will introduce her.
Okay. That would be a good thing.
I'll introduce her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to let you know that I'm really grateful to the board in bringing me to this church and actually providing me sort of a soft, graceful entry. And so I have a couple weeks where I'm acclimating and coming in here to the church and getting to know people. And then my first talk will be, I believe, in a couple weeks, September 16th. So to get started today, I'm really delighted to introduce Lesley Miller, Reverend Lesley Miller, who is actually one of my classmates in school. So it's been very joyful for me to see her this morning and to catch up, and you're in for a real treat. She is a true joy, was a great classmate, a good friend, and has a heart of gold. So please welcome Lesley Miller.
Well, good morning, Unity of Lawrence. It's a joy to be here today with you, and what a special occasion as we welcome and bless your new minister as you start that road together to spiritual support and upliftment. We just bless. We see that light around Reverend Sean and know that that good is being made here in this church. So it's awesome to be here. I have spoken here before. It was a while ago, and I was very eager to be coming back. So thanks for having me here today. Let's see, today, of course, my talk is on the amazing power of letting go, but before I dig into that, I want to acknowledge that this is Labor Day. This is a major American holiday, and it is grounded in recognizing the people, the workers, the energy of work and labor in our country, having made it so great. So I have a special fondness in my heart for Labor Day. My family was actually very involved in the labor movement when they came to this country in early, like 1901 and 1903. They were poor, they were immigrants, they brought their culture and their language, they brought no money, they were immigrants, they were refugees. And they were given the opportunity here in this beautiful country to not only start lives, but to give their children and me much better lives. My grandfather's brother, Arthur Osman, was a co-founder of a union in New York City, one of the first unions during the Depression. And I'm kind of proud. It's kind of a mixed history. He was a card-carrying communist, but never mind. This was the labor movement in New York City, and the union he founded later went on to be part of called District 65, a very famous union. So, while we have nowadays Labor Days for sales and shop, and last weekend perhaps before the end of summer, it rings in my heart the legacy that my family has given me. This was the first union to be completely non-racist, to welcome people of color, blacks and Hispanics and immigrants from everywhere. And this was the culture in my family. They were freedom fighters. They rode the freedom trains down to the South, to the Jim Crow South, to fight for the rights of all people and to make this country great. So I'm very proud of that. And just invite you to remember that while unions don't have a great name nowadays, they really gave a voice to the workers and when they needed it, and fair wages and working conditions, and blessed people in so many ways. And that's where Labor Day comes from. All right, so moving on. Oh, the other legacy from my people. If you are going shopping, don't pay retail. So, keeping with stories and jokes, there was a man, Morris, going toward his 80s. He was about to turn 80 and been healthy all his life. And as his birthday was approaching, he wasn't feeling so good. He'd slowed down. He wasn't interested in a lot of his activities. So his son set him up with a doctor friend to go see and get some test runs, see if everything was, what was going on. So Morris goes to the doctor. And doctor takes, gives him an exam, takes a lot of tests, and says, well, Morris, come back in 2 weeks, we'll go over the results of your tests. So Morris makes his appointment, and he leaves the office. Well, a week later, the doctor is in the downtown area, the town they live in, and he sees Morris not looking anything like he did in the office. He's got energy, he's spry, he's looking terrific, and he's walking into a restaurant holding the door for a very attractive woman. So the doctor's curious, it's definitely the same man. So Morris comes back a week later, and the doctor says, Morris, you're looking fabulous. I'm happy to see it. And Morris says, Doctor, thank you. I can't thank you enough. You have changed my life and helped me, and I'm feeling fabulous for what you did, what you said. And the doctor says, I didn't do anything. I don't know what you mean. And Morris says, Doctor, don't you remember? You told me to get a hot mama and be cheerful. And the doctor shakes his head and he says, Morris, I told you I found a heart murmur. Be careful. But it sort of speaks to my talk today on our ability to let go of thoughts and limiting ideas, and isn't it, our third principle, thoughts held in mind, express after their kind. So I know, I'm glad I didn't botch the joke, I often do. So the amazing power of letting go. Well, today's daily word, actually, I kind of thought we might have read today's daily word. I will be happy to read it. I have a copy in my purse. And because it did sort of connect my talk to it. So today's daily word was faith, is faith. And it's about choosing faith. So I will read it. Today's daily word is, I express my faith with every choice I make today. My every choice, no matter how small, expresses my faith in something at that time. Those moment-by-moment choices create my life experience, so it would be impossible to live without faith. The great news is that I can change my focus whenever I choose. I am not a victim of the events and challenges in my life. When I pause for a moment to remember the truth of infinite love, I am at peace. I take time today to observe the life I am living. It is a perfect expression of the faith I am holding. Faith allows me to see peace in the midst of conflict, to find abundance where once there seemed lack, and to love all others rather than judge. And the scripture is from James 1, verse 6. But ask in faith, never doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. So I connected my talk today, letting go, to this idea of faith. And let's see, I have a PowerPoint. So I express my faith with every choice I make today. And the great news is that I can change my focus whenever I choose. I am not a victim of the events and challenges in my life. So how can we do that? What power enables us to lean on faith to change things? Well, one, we have the power to choose. It's not one of Charles Fillmore's 12 powers. But the power of elimination is the power to let go, the power to renounce, ideas held in mind, and to choose again. Course in Miracles says, choose again. And this is such an important power that we have, and we have it when we lean on faith and we trust God. So, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. We don't know exactly who wrote that. We attribute it to Paul the Apostle. But the idea is that when we lean on faith, we can't see the outcome. We can't see the future. So we have to let go, and we have to have that power of faith that in us are all the answers. And I love that in Unity we teach that. God is expressing through us. So the answers lie within. And we have the power. We have the power to choose again, even when we don't know what the outcome is. So the power of letting go is one of the 12 powers, the ability to release, remove, denounce, deny. Oh, this is very sensitive. Here we are. To say no, to let go, to say to keep boundaries, to make changes, not going back to the past, but moving on to the future. It's huge. I mean, I could go on all day with examples of the power of letting go. Charles Fillmore says in 12 Powers of Man, a change of mind affects a corresponding change in the body. If the thoughts are lifted up, the whole organism is raised to higher rates of vibration. If the system has been burdened with congestion of any kind, a higher life energy will set it into universal freedom. But there must be a renunciation or letting go of old thoughts before the new can find a place in consciousness. This is a psychological law. So this is law. This is how our minds work, according to Charles, and I believe he's right, which has its outer expression in the intricate, eliminative functions of the body. Well, here Charles gets kind of scatological. And he does, in this chapter on Elimination, 12 Powers of Man, very much talk about the body's functions, and we won't go into it. I invite you to read it sometime. Charles has some pretty, I don't know what to say, odd ideas, curious ideas. In this day and age, they don't always hold up well. But we bless him and know that his understanding of consciousness is solid and sound. And yes, our consciousness affects the body. I mean, the joke about Morris, it's just an example of how our thoughts do affect our body. Edwin Gaines teaches there's only two things going on at any time: circulation and congestion. Circulation is the flow. Congestion is the holding on. I once had an understanding of things in my life as never let anything go that didn't have claw marks on it. And I lived that way. I really did. I was very, and you can relate, right? We hold on, we hold back, we avoid change at all costs. We're afraid, we're fearful. You know, the devil you know is often better than the devil you don't know. This is, unfortunately, a cause of a lot of codependence in the world and a lot of pain and suffering. Buddhist teaching is not that. I used to think it taught that desire was the cause of suffering. It's not desire. Desire is healthy. Desire is beautiful. It's attachment to desire. Its attachment is the cause of our suffering. So if it weren't for this power to let go, how would we ever change anything or get happy? Because God is at work. There's a spiritual activity well beyond our understanding that brings forth good, that is uplifting. And if we hold on to our understanding, that's congestion, that's limitation, that's stopping the flow. And when we do that, we end up suffering. So letting go has many faces. We all have stuff. You're familiar with Marie Kondo's Japanese method of decluttering. What does she call that? The magical life-changing. The magical life-changing way of, I don't know, I have to read the book, but I know it's very popular. Somebody said it.
Purging, I think, or something like that.
Tidying up.
Tidying up, that's it. That the life-changing magic of tidying up. Whew, that's heavy promise, right? But there's something to it. A friend of mine just cleaned out her closets the other day. Her daughter came over and helped her, and she put it on Facebook. She said, "Oh, I feel like a new person. My house is like, there's air, I can breathe." Well, that's a spiritual experience, having air and breath in your house. And we all hold on to stuff that we don't need. One rule to follow, I heard, is if you haven't touched it in a year, you do not need it. Somebody else does. Now, this is a physical expression, as down below, so above. These things are connected. So we all have collections and accumulations and closets, drawers, shelves, boxes. I invite you to begin to clean those out a little bit at a time. I'm working on this myself right now, and it's pretty gratifying to look at more space in your house. So the law of circulation is always at work. And as we release, we make way for new experiences of abundance. We don't know exactly what's coming, but when we're open, we're ready to receive it, right? And when we give, we let go. When we share, we're affirming more is coming. I'm abundant. I am prosperous. I can let go with ease and grace. So we deny lack and limitation when we let go. Then there is a spiritual effect. The 23rd Psalm begins, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." What a beautiful denial and affirmation of abundance. The whole psalm is a metaphor for letting go, for trusting God, for not holding on, to affirm that all that we need is present. We're abundant. We'll get through anything. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Wow, that's pretty cool, powerful reminder of letting go. So we continue. Letting go has many faces, because we need to let go of what no longer serves us. And we grow, we evolve, what we took on might not be right for us anymore. We might have been learning a lesson at a certain time when we took a job. I was in an abusive marriage. I took a job with an abusive boss. Go figure. And there came a time as I was getting healthy where I had to leave that job. And I had to leave that marriage. And that letting go was hard. And I couldn't do that till my consciousness was healed enough, strong enough, had a new understanding of what was mine and the choices I needed to make. So we let go of old ideas in many ways. A lot of us carry around ideas from childhood or religious beliefs we were burdened with. Thoughts of sin, thoughts of unworthiness, thoughts of having to please God. Does anyone in this room still believe they have to please God? I mean, that's an idea we can let go of, especially in unity. God loves you. God loves us no matter what we do. There's always, always room to return to God, not fear God's forgiveness, because God can't forgive or not forgive. God is forgiveness. God is love. And we remember that when we release old ideas. So we can also release ideas from conventional wisdom. I sold my house to move here to Missouri at the height of the real estate crisis. And I followed my unity principles, and I got my house ready to sell, and I had a purpose and a destination, and I knew it would all work out, despite what the radio and the TV and everyone told me. And you know, my house not only sold, but I had multiple bids on it. Because I stepped out of the conventional wisdom. I stepped out of that macro idea. I heard a story just yesterday. A friend was telling me about her daughter was all in a tizzy. Oh my God, she's going through the school calendar, and she sees her violin audition for state orchestra is the same day as her prom. Oh my God. It's like the world was going to end right then and there. She was, her daughter, who's 16, she was convinced she was screwed. That was the end of it. She, it wasn't ever going to be right. But her mother knew better. Her mother said, honey, take a breath. We can work this out. You can go to your audition dressed in your prom dress, or you can change in the car, whatever. We'll figure it out. But we don't see that right away. Sometimes we have to let go of fears. We always have to let go of fears, but the ideas that we hold aren't necessarily true. And it's time to look deeper and ask, what's going on? Is this true? What can I let go of? And can I make room for God's wisdom, God's answers? And, there's a great mystery. We cannot know how things are going to unfold when we let go. But that's where the faith is. That's where choosing God's presence and wisdom and power in us is going to bring forth the answers we need. Oh, so just going back a second, releasing worry and anxiety, releasing judgments, and releasing unforgiveness. This is huge, right? Resentments, anger. So we can do this through our power of letting go. The quote from Nelson Mandela truly sat with me. As I mentioned, I was in an abusive relationship and it ended. And I was bitter. I was angry for a lot of years. So this quote really stayed with me. Nelson Mandela is to have said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead me to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." Yeah, even after we're free of situations, don't we often hold bitterness and resentment? They keep us in prison. They keep us locked in our pain. And I've found, and I understand, once again, that letting go of attachment to the idea that the past somehow should have been different is the doorway to forgiveness. This is a lesson that has been very powerful for me. And if you walk away with one thing today, perhaps that is what I would ask you to remember, that letting go of the idea that the past should have been different or that you deserved a different past. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. Looking at the present, looking at the possibilities, the unlimited possibilities that exist in the now, and to maybe have compassion for the past, grieve it, look at it, but with love, and know that your good is still coming forth. It might not have happened yet, but it's there if you're not living in the past. So ultimately, what do we want? What we want is peace. What we want is freedom. So Charles Fillmore, sorry for all the words, but these are quotes from Charles, some of the ones that aren't too disturbing, because there are a few. So he talks about worry and anxiety, that if we worry about temporal needs, this disturbs the body. It brings illness. Worry, tension in the mind has its effects in the body. I mean, we know that our histories can be seated in our very cells. And this is something we need to look at. I had a very powerful healing in a deep meditation. I wasn't expecting it, but in this very deep meditation, I had an image of releasing someone, physically releasing them from my past, turning them around and pushing them away. And with that release, illnesses that I had in my body left. I could feel them open a door and go away, just shrivel up. I was healed. And I was this close to having a date for surgery. And just that forgiveness in that meditation, that knowing arising from consciousness into my conscious mind that I did not need to hold on to this person anymore, physically healed me. This is how our bodies work. When we release tension and anxiety, we heal our bodies. Jesus warned against tension and anxiety. Charles says, "Be not anxious for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, for it is not life more than the food, the body than the raiment." Jesus, how many times in the New Testament does Jesus tell us not to worry about our physical lives? Put faith in God, that is the way to the kingdom. And we know in unity that Jesus is not saying you have to die and get your gifts in some imagined hereafter. No, the gifts are here in this world. And letting go of our egos and our fears for how things are going to turn out, trusting God, choosing God is going to bring our good. And divine law has been provided for man that will meet every need when it is observed. Seek ye first the kingdom and righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. We say these verses in prosperity teachings, but how do we get there? We have to let go of our previous ideas in faith and choose God and God's abundance. So here he talks about something very powerful, something we're often not aware of. You know, there is generational pain. There is generational teaching in our families, in our culture. We hold beliefs that we don't even know where they come from. They go way back. And Charles addresses this. He says, the beliefs that you and your ancestors have held in mind have become thought currents so strong in their course. Here, you can read along. So strong in their course in you that can be changed only by your resolute decision to entertain them no longer. So you have to look at those patterns and say, oh my God, this is what's come from my tribe, from my family, from my culture. This does not serve me. But you know, it's going to be activated in your consciousness unless you make the point of saying, look at that. I'm not going to do that anymore. I come from a Jewish background. I've never been baptized into anything. I don't really think I need to do that. But when I came to understanding that Jesus was my way shower, that unity teachings were mine, that this was in my heart and this is what I needed to follow, it was years of hard work, disentangling the guilt, disentangling the what will my people say? I follow Christian teachings. I follow the Christ. I hold an understanding of the Christ. My family does not. They don't get it. And you know what? I can let that go because I'm choosing for me, for my well-being, for my heart, for my conscience, and for what my divine download has told me I am here to do. I am a teacher of God. And these are the words that are meaningful to me to do that. So it was hard. And there's always the pull back. There's always the pull. I always get it from my family. They're loving, they're kind, they don't want to hurt me in any way. They're not even aware of the pull back. I also have a background in recovery, and in early recovery when, it was pretty hard for me to go to restaurants and places with people. There was always the pull, oh, you can just have a drink, you can just have one. Go ahead, it's not going to hurt you, Now, they're not even conscious of what they're doing. They're trying to pull you back into the tribe because you have picked up your bedroll and you have stepped away from the campfire. Do you think they're not going to try to pull you back? Oh, they are. Because at an unconscious level, back in the early evolutioned mind or unevolutioned mind, they have an understanding that the tribe has to stay together for survival. If a member starts leaving and walking off, that's scary for survival. That's a threat. We are evolving. We have evolved. Unity has come out of new thought because we're ready for these teachings, and we're ready to understand that we're not tribal so much anymore. We can love our families and connect with them, but we don't have to be them. We can be ourselves. Our individual conscience guides the way. So Spirit will find a way to lead you when you have freely and fully dedicated yourself to God, and you will be led in a path just a little different from that of anyone else. Yeah, Charles knew. Charles knew it's hard to self-differentiate, to just be yourself. But there's great strength, there's great hope in it, and it will lead you to your happiness. Jesus knew this. He knew this we see it in the Sermon on the Mount, in the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Well, the poor in spirit, that's when you hit bottom, when you're living in humiliation, you're crushed. You've lost your business or a relationship or your identity. You've hit failure somewhere. Well, that is the doorway to the kingdom of God, because God's going to show up in your life. And if you let go of the past thoughts, that's where the blessings come. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. When we mourn, we're out of answers. We can't explain these. Why did bad things happen to good people? Where do people go when they die? What happens? What's it about? These are terrible, terrible, dark thoughts for us, and sadness and loss. God again shows up to soothe us, to comfort us. Isn't that when we hear the 23rd Psalm at all those funerals? And blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Well, the meek does not mean you're a doormat. Meek does not, can't stand up for myself, have to stay silent, can't